Sure, let's call a meeting to order.
Sure.
And then that way I'm easy.
Yeah, that's that idea.
You did.
No. Well, he's gonna, take the minutes from the meeting.
Did anybody research this at all? What it's about? 181.
I have no idea, that's how come I'm here.
So just so you know,
Yeah,
with AI now,
yeah,
if you have an iPhone, all you literally have to do is text in what is Act 181. And I believe we're dealing with tier 2B. There's 3 tiers.
Yeah.
Act 181. And it's like simple and quick to give you a rough idea of what it is.
Okay.
Takes like 2 minutes if you want it to look quick now.
Alex had a lot of information at the meeting we had the other day.
Yeah,
and so the purpose of the tier system is to have higher density housing areas?
Well, the tiers will be what they do with that 250 jurisdiction on them. Like tier 1 has to have sewage and water, and then a bunch of different stipulations to make sure basically that the town can do what Act 250 would do pretty much.
Yeah,
And then tier 2B is a little more not quite so precise on what you have to have. It's gotta be in
Did you bring them
the
back?
village standard.
Oh, Alex, he doesn't.
yeah,
You know, and you gotta have adequate water supply,
right,
which is probably why they've been coming to our meetings harping on getting the water system turned into a municipal water system.
in North Hyde Park, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
well, say that again, Eric, I'm sorry, they're coming, the.
well, I just watched the meetings and I'm seeing that the LCPC been at some of the select board meetings dealing with some of the North Hyde Park has a little water district up there, it's kind of private. Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were coming to your.
And it's some old guys that started it and they want out of the running of it, so I think they're trying to get the town, is that what's happening basically, to take it over or do
The North Hyde
something?
Park?
Yeah,
We haven't heard,
The water district,
yeah, they haven't come to us in ages.
we did talk to him a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, you talked to them,
We
okay,
did,
okay.
with Scott Johnson as well.
Oh, okay, oh, good,
There are some people that are looking to retire. So we're actively trying to find some folks to take their spot.
yeah, I believe they're tied in with the fire department building too, which has also been being talked about. So,
The North Hyde Park. Park.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so is the water district in North Hyde Park correlate at all with the map? I mean, is the whole hot pink area on the water system, or is it just Route 100, or?
It goes up Ferry Street. It goes up Ferry Street
It does.
for a little, it goes to Eric Ather's house.
that's the end of
Wait.
the village limits.
That's the end of
Where-
the,
Eric,
it goes to Eric Ather's, the last house on Ferry Street.
goes up, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's not fair, that's already fine.
yeah, right just past the sawmill.
Okay. Oh, well, here. Well, I have the ball. No, not that, I just.
This isn't the same as that.
This part.
Oh. I get it. Yeah, the top of the corner.
Okay.
This is. What's the big area at the top? Like this part here.
Hmm.
I'm assuming this is like the village,
Which color?
the hot pink.
The peachy is the village. The hot pink is the planned growth area.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The peach is the village,
yeah,
but the road is.
see there's a little box down on the bottom, the key on the bottom, the key, thank you.
I think.
Well, no, the hot pink is too.
It's the village center.
Yeah.
People on that. But
Yeah.
The road goes through the village, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
180.
Sorry, yeah.
Seth, do you wanna come up here? and-
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy to
yeah, kinda.
come up and answer questions.
But that's okay.
If you can maybe do like an overview, I guess I did it for the select board already. But for the planning commission. Sure, thank you. So in addition to the map, I have 3 sets of handouts. I think I have the right number.
There's, oh, thank you. The summary of tier 1A and 1B surround, the request resolution for tier 1B. Then some excerpts from your current zoning and subdivision regulations, which should look fairly familiar to most members of the planning commission. Those were reviewed and adopted by the select board earlier this year. So I'll let those go out to members of the public as well.
You do have, we don't, yeah.
You didn't wear your blue hat. What's that? You didn't wear your new blue hat?
I did not wear the blue hat. I should have. The white hat this time of year is
Yes.
probably a mistake.
Well, that's better for the warmer weather. I mean, colder weather.
This is the form. Here we got a couple of readers upstairs and so.
It's not every day, but I can't find the code.
So the purpose of the meeting tonight, as I understand it, is to talk about the potential of Hyde Park applying for tier 1B designation. Tier 1B designation is an option that's made available to communities based on the Act 250 and planning reform law that was passed 2 legislative sessions ago. The table summary that I passed out gives an overview of tier 1B. It also gives an overview of tier 1A, which is another option available. I'm providing that, but giving you the quick summary that for a variety of reasons, Hyde Park is not eligible for tier 1A. And I've highlighted sort of the key reasons why. The first is that tier 1A has some requirements for local zoning and subdivision that the town currently does not meet. And based on your deliberations on the bylaws over the last several years, my understanding is that you don't want to meet those requirements. Specifically, there's a requirement for tier 1A related to height, allowing 4-story buildings. You were all very clear that was not in keeping with the character of North Hyde Park. The other is an administrative issue, which is to apply for tier 1A. The town has to take on essentially administrative ownership of all existing Act 250 permits in the area. I perhaps jumped the gun and presumed that the town would not want to do that, but very few communities in the region have wanted to take on that level of administrative responsibility. So tier 1A provides or would provide a complete exemption from Act 250. Tier 1B, which, as we'll talk about tonight, portions of North Hyde Park could meet the criteria for, increases the threshold at which projects, including a housing component, trigger Act 250 review. So that it increases the threshold from 10 units to 50 units. Important to note that Act 250 measures jurisdiction, not by discrete project, but by everything completed by the same landowner or builder in a 5-year, 5-mile radius. So the criteria for tier 1B are first and foremost opt-in by the municipality. So this is entirely a local decision whether to make a request for 1B. There's a resolution form which is distributed that ultimately the authority to make the decision rests with the select board. Select board can elect to consult with other boards, which is what the select board has done, and makes sense, to do. The next is that the area, is served or has access to, public water or wastewater. And that's an or, not an and, or has soils, that are suitable for on-site wastewater. And that's three ors, not three ands. So one of those three. Because of the fire district water system, North Hyde Park could be considered eligible for 1B designation. The community also needs to have adopted zoning and subdivision, very distinct between tier 1B and tier 1A is you only need to have zoning and subdivision. Unlike 1A, there are no requirements for what is in that zoning and subdivision. Provided it meets all of the standards of statute, which you've worked for zoning anywhere, which you worked, over the last few years to make sure your zoning did. Also need to have a duly adopted municipal plan. Hyde Park has a duly adopted municipal plan. And then the final legal requirements is that the community has the capacity to administer its own local zoning and subdivision. And so you have a dedicated zoning administrator, so you meet that criteria. I think an important thing to know is the 1B exemption is specifically for Act 250. Applications still need to go through your full local zoning and subdivision review, still need to receive all state technical permits like water, wastewater, stormwater, still need to get a town access permit or state VTrans 1111 permit if accessing a state highway. So it's an exemption only from Act 250. The other technical permits and local zoning and subdivision apply. There's discussion about, there's also then a tie-in to the future land use map, which I believe is what you were talking about when I came in, which is the area needs to be mapped as either a village center area, which is the dark pink, or a village area, which is the light pink. So the community does have the discretion to ask for a partial area. If so, you could, for example, do part of the light pink and all of the dark pink, or none of the light pink and all of the dark pink, for example, and we could have a discussion about what's most appropriate for you. If you do it in that way, there needs to be a justification that's outlined, that it's and that could be for example, that the water system doesn't actually extend even that far, or that the planning objectives for a particular street are different than the core.
Does the water system extend that far?
Does it go north of Ferry Street, Brian?
It
It
goes,
just goes to that corner, right?
it goes to that corner. I don't think it goes up Heath Road though.
Okay, that
I'm pretty
was,
sure it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it does either.
so I think the immediate, point of potential discussion is whether to include Heath Road. And there was significant discussion during the bylaw development that Heath Road is distinct from the village. So that would be consistent with your past planning discussions, if you decided to make that decision. And again, this is ultimately a local decision, so we'll support you in doing the resolution if you want to go that direction, doing a partial request if you want to go in that direction, and if you decide that this isn't the right fit for Hyde Park at all. So we're here just to help you guide through this. Happy to answer questions. I also have provided some of the zoning for of the North Hyde Park area. I guess I'll defer to all of you if you'd like to ask specific questions about the area in general or dive into some of the details of the bylaws of North Hyde Park.
Well, I'll make some statements. I think we made it pretty clear in all of our meetings, we were looking to take this slowly, develop in North Hyde Park. And I certainly personally have no interest in seeing a 50 lot subdivision somewhere around there. Right off quick. Don't know that we'd see it anyhow. Secondly, I don't even know what that water system is. I don't know if a bunch of guys put it in themselves. What kind of specs are done, what capacity it has. Who runs it? Who takes care of it when it breaks? I don't know anything about that. Does anybody here?
The water district themselves take care of it all.
So it's just like some good old boys, pretty
Correct.
much.
Yeah, we had a wellhead protection area. Finished that at one time, and I think Roger Audette might come to our meeting. It seemed like kind of pretty. Yeah, not a real.
Well, I don't think it's like Hyde Park system that just got put in.
No, that's not the feeling I got from it.
You know, and I mean, to me. Like this designation like North Hyde Park got as a village center district. It's kind of like word games to me, because I look at. Where people travel to from where they live, and pretty much they're gonna travel to more so. So, you know, North Hyde Park is way on the end of our town, right on the edge. So all this traffic's gonna be going over our roads and, you know, we see it in Centerville already where they cut crosswalks with it. So, you know, it's gonna change things a little bit if you develop the heck out of it. That's why we really. We remember at the meetings, we wanted to keep it low key, you know? So I feel kind of funny trying to make it as easy as possible to do something that we're not really crazy about. And, my other problem with this whole deal, which may or may not be anything anyone cares about, but this little deal here with making things easier, not going through Act 250 for building where the state wants you to. The flip side of it with what Act 181 is, they're gonna turn around and make it a lot harder where they don't want you to build. And slam Act 250 designation on places that didn't have it. So they're kind of like weaponizing Act 250 to whip you to do what they want done. So that really irritates the hell out of me, to be honest with you. So, you know, and you've got maps for that you guys are working on.
Well,
You know,
just to be clear, LCPC is not the one developing the tier 3 maps, which is what you're referring
you've
to.
probably seen them.
We have, and they're concerning for Lamoille County.
Yeah, you could have a piece of land you've put money into for years, that could all of a sudden get slapped with Act 250 designation, which pretty much turns a regular person into not being able to do anything with it. You know, so I'm not crazy about this whole process that they're doing that way, but probably doesn't affect, I mean, what it's gonna boil down to is, do you really wanna accelerate things in North Hyde Park? This is the way to do it, so. I personally don't wanna go too fast, I'd like to just go easy with it, but that's just my opinion as one person, so.
And I think, I think I heard you say this, and I think it's wrong, but it's not a 50 lot subdivision, it's 10
Up
acres,
to,
but it's on 10 acres, so you're not gonna see.
On less than.
it's 50 units.
50 units, right, so you're not gonna see 50, I mean.
It could be 50
You
houses,
can't
it
put
could be
50 houses
50,
on 10 acres.
it could be
Could you?
50
That
apartments.
seems pretty.
50 houses on 10 acres.
You can't.
No,
do that.
no,
No, I'm
just-
saying you can't.
No, where the number 10s get confusing is, right now, if you have zoning in your town. You as a landowner can build 10 houses and you're Act 250 exempt. Okay, if you don't have zoning, it's up to 5.
Mhm.
Okay, now you're gonna be able to do up to 50. Without going through Act 250. Which is, that's like the places you see in Essex where the houses are touching each other, which. It isn't for me, I mean, isn't why I live here, but
But it could also be one building with 50 units in it.
yeah, could be a 50-unit apartment building. Theoretically, it'd be tricky, like Steph said, because you can't go up, so it'd be quite a sprawling facility, but.
So I think this is where it's helpful to look at some of the bylaw provisions, and I handed all of mine out, so I'm gonna try to go from memory as best as I can. The first piece, thank you, Judge, is on the sort of what level of control does the town have? On the last page, the town currently requires planning unit development review, which is an additional step of the local review, that also brings in the ability to do phasing at 10 lots over 10 consecutive years. So you have a check built into your zoning and subdivision review for a large subdivision like that. You also, in the planning commission, spent quite a bit of time on this, and the table of uses have pretty clear distinctions between multifamily with 6 or more units, multifamily with 3 to 5, and single and one family dwellings in terms of what you allow and where you allow it. The conditional use review brings in additional reviews such as traffic. So again, what this does is the Act 250 step. It does not remove someone's obligation to go through your local zoning process, which has those checks on some of those issues. So I think the question for the community is whether those checks are sufficient or whether the Act 250 state review is needed in addition to those checks that you have.
How was it decided that we needed this? Or
They
is
look
that
at
even
Act
been
250 as a
done?
burden on development.
Hmm,
Act 250 can be a burden on.
oh, for sure, no doubt. But
Governor Scott wanted to get it to be easier, so he ordered them to work on Act 250, and this is what they come up with.
okay.
What's the positive side of this? I'm hearing traffic, I'm hearing a lot of units on not a huge piece of land. What's the
Development
positive
for our community, housing for people.
Specifically affordable housing.
if it is affordable housing?
It's
Anything
affordable.
affordable?
It's well, what happens is when
actually-
you build the apartments, they're the only thing the younger people can seem to do right now. But the tax revenue that comes in for it doesn't even come close to the municipal bills at all. And if you don't believe it, go talk to Morrisville.
Yeah.
They're pretty much like putting a stop to everything all of a sudden, just like that, so. You have to take that into consideration. And as a businessman, you'd like to see the $500,000 to $800,000 homes built. Then the revenue that comes in. Pays for the kids going to school, the police that ride around, the fire departments and snowplows, on and on and on. And we talked about that there was nothing in place to help us. If we get pegged as the place to build the low income housing, so.
Although it does sound like in our current zoning bylaws, we have significant checks to the balance.
Yeah,
If we've expanded the 5-year, 5-mile rule to 10 lots in 10 consecutive years. We've designated 3 and 5 and 3 and 6 in single use dwellings. And we maintain the local control to look at an application and say, this isn't for us, our water system doesn't support it. The traffic it would bring into town, we don't want that here. We can still say no. What tier 1B status in my interpretation of it does is it gives the contractors a heads up, hey, maybe we should look here for a potential development. Whether that's 3 condos and 6 units, or it's a 15-unit apartment building. If we have this designation, they don't need to go through Act 250. That's attractive to contractors. We have zoning bylaws in place that make it hard to build. And it can be a local decision.
Yeah, but how applicable is that to this particular area of Hyde Park in North Hyde Park Village? Has anybody looked at what land is actually in that hot pink area that's developable in that way? I have, this seems like
Oh, you got MDE's milliard.
no, that's in
Yeah.
hot pink.
Yeah,
I don't know where it is up there, but it's
yeah, it's in
in the
that.
village.
Yeah, that would be,
This is,
the Heath Lumber Mill is this area here.
Yeah. that's quite a
Yeah.
big chunk of
Yeah,
land.
area.
There's a height structure in the bylaws.
Yes.
There is, yep, yep.
And actually, a lot of the land that is owned by the mill is wetland anyways.
Right.
Oh, is
There's a
that-
lot of,
that
there's a lot of
hatched
swamp behind it.
That's correct.
Brian, is that's the hatched area on the map?
Probably, yeah.
Flood prone areas.
Right, so that kind of takes that out of the.
No, there's some room left there.
Yeah, there's still room actually where the yard is, but anywhere is behind that, cause they own quite a lot of land. there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up
Does
on
it
the
go
upper
towards
yard, it's
Irving?
probably dry enough. Huh?
Does he go but to you? To the
Yeah.
house line, speak?
Yeah.
Does it go up there?
It goes right to the edge of my field.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest, if we move forward with tier 1B, I don't think we're gonna see any buildings go up in North Hyde Park. But if we don't go to tier 1B, we won't even be a part of the conversation.
Right.
They're not even going to look.
Mhm.
And I think we do want folks to look, but we also have to decide for Hyde Park what makes sense when that application comes in. Can we support it? Is it good for the community? And if it is, and it's applicable to our zoning bylaws, we say yes. To me, this is an all-win, no risk situation. We have the bylaws in place to protect us.
And if something does wanna get built there, that we do. The town approves that, then you have to go through Act 250.
Right.
That's a
It's
huge.
very
risk.
attractive.
Can I ask a question? Because we're all talking about this, I don't think anybody, except maybe Brian, understands the water infrastructure that's up there. So. If there is no clear understanding of the water structure, how do you know that is even developable? Even, I mean, notionally, there's a water system in Hyde Park Village.
Sure.
But what is it? Nobody seems to know.
Brian,
So-
you know how many allocations we have?
I don't know that. I just know it was expanded probably 12 or 13 years ago. They got some grant and they went, cause it only went a little ways up Ferry Street to the brook.
Sure.
And then they got a grant and they continued from the brook all the way to Aether's house. The rest of the way they had a contractor do it. It was all done legitimately and I don't know what the capacity is. I have no idea. I don't know how many hookups we can have. I don't know.
I have one more question that is
Yeah.
unclear to me. Everything I'm reading about this is that this is a temporary thing. It's an interim exemption that disappears in 2027.
No.
So there were that's a really good question. There were. The year before, the legislature passed temporary exemptions. Which actually would apply to portions of North Hyde Park. Those temporary exemptions sunset in 2027 and are replaced by tier 1B if requested by the municipality. So that's the distinction.
So there's already one in place that is expiring in 2027?
There is one, it is tied to the designated core, which is a smaller area, and a 1/4 mile radius. And the 1/4 mile radius does not quite reach the lumber mill. So the primary property, and I don't want to make a decision based on one property, but it is the largest developable property in the area, is not within that temporary exemption area. It could be if in the 1B area, if the community made that request.
So has that exemption been in existence since like for a year or something, and nobody's exploited? Is what I.
Yes, it went into place in, I think in 2003. And we've not seen in Lamoille County much activity as a result of it.
Does that not say something?
That there probably won't be much happening if we do that.
And this is all temporary in the sense that if the town decides 5 years from now, tier 1B is not for us,
Right.
we can roll it back
Yeah.
and bring it
That's
back to
fine.
where it is.
Yes, I did.
But then we lose that option of not having to have Act 250, correct?
Correct.
Because Act 250 is a pain,
Exactly.
and I can't understand why we wouldn't vote for that, just for that reason.
There's a house on Route 15, I think it's in Cambridge, where it has the big Act 250 sign. I don't know if anyone's driven by that. I always wonder what the background story,
I know,
you know, what happened there, why couldn't they tear the house down and build a new one?
still sitting, that's been there for a long time, that sign.
Right.
Yep. The if you care for the background. So
If you haven't, so.
the background, actually, one of my, I think, second year at LCPC, that property owner reached out to us. That is attached to the Quarry Hill Farm. And because of the quarry, the entire property is subject to Act 250. That has prevented them from, or the process and the cost of going through the process has prevented them from doing this sort of adaptive reuse of the house that they had intended to do. And so the sign is attempting to bring to the attention the jurisdictional opinion that put the house under Act 250 jurisdiction.
So maybe Cambridge needs to do this to help that person.
The challenge for Cambridge is that they currently, unlike Hyde Park, do not have adopted zoning. But on the other side of the villages, the motel next to Robbie's has also reached out about converting that to permanent housing. Right now, it's kind of used as transitional housing. And again, the Act 250 process for that adaptive reuse is cumbersome for the small.
And that's because they have no zoning.
That's because they have no zoning, where you would, because you have this option because you have zoning and subdivision.
So Johnson would be the same way.
Johnson would be the same way.
Even.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin.
Like, we're well positioned to move forward with tier 1B if that's what the boards decide. And, you know, I've heard from the scoping studies in North Hyde Park, looking at adding sidewalks and bringing vibrance back into the community. If we only got a handful of condos with young families, it's an aging community in the North Hyde Park Village Center that might attract young families to move into a place that is fairly well positioned to commute to places like Johnson or Morristown or Stowe for work.
Well, I'll tell you,
It's
let's
low risk.
go, somebody going to Stowe in the evening, like get out of work time, it is a constant line of traffic.
It's
through there,
crazy.
so it's
Right.
unbelievable.
It really is.
It's crazy. Now that it's dark, you really notice it, and
Sure.
it's unreal.
Mhm.
I think someone on Zoom might have wanted to chime in.
Yeah, hey, this is Matt Reed. Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in like this. I couldn't get the Zoom to work, but I can answer a few questions. The North Hyde Park Water District or Fire District cannot have any new applicants at this time. They have to do some upgrades or something to it. I was trying to connect a place on Ferry Street and got denied by the state. So as far as I know, there is no additional water allocations capable for North Hyde Park. That may be different in the last 6 months or whatever, but that's my last status. Also, Cambridge doesn't have zoning, but they have a DRB, and I recently did reconfigured a 4-lot subdivision in Cambridge, and it took 2.5 years and about $30,000. So I don't know what fact of zoning, they say they don't have zoning, but it's basically zoning. And then as far as Act 250 goes, in my experience with the state is I do a lot of projects that are not Act 250, but all the criteria for Act 250 get evaluated for every project. So even though you might not be an Act 250 project, wetlands, stormwater, and many other things come up on the Act 250 review. And every construction project for wastewater goes through an Act 250. It's a simple review process, but it gets looked at by Act 250 and can trigger anything. So I wouldn't say that this may be, free and clear of Act 250 because it might on the zoning side, but then then the other components of Vermont Agency of Natural Resources may still require several things on their side. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying that they still get involved, including as of July of next year, any more than one, which doesn't apply to this, but an example, any more than one home on a driveway more than 800 feet long is a complete Act 250 project from now on, whether you have zoning or not. So that's the breadth of A&R and what they do. So this may be a good fit. Just giving you my pieces to it for that as a conversation.
It's a good fit.
I think it might attract people. The sewer is definitely a concern to be able to get a sewer system in North Hyde Park. I've evaluated the lumber mill area. There is still a wetlands that still all applies back there. And stormwater would apply for anything. But it may attract somebody that wants to build. I mean, look at the difference between Williston and Burlington. Burlington is old buildings that are falling down, and Williston has new apartments, and they have people living there. And that's one thing Hyde Park seems to have, a shortage of, is if we're going to do housing, we need to be able to do housing.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything?
Well, I just have one more question, putting it another way. If the Act 250 triggers is, what is it, 10 lots within a 5-mile radius over a 5-year period, right?
Right.
The only thing, if you were doing a single apartment building, say, it would trigger Act 250 if you had more than 10 units.
Right. What
Is that right?
it is. So what you might see, and all of this is dependent on the other permits and such, is that if you go across the Connecticut River to New Hampshire, you see a lot more small builders doing like 1-2 unit type buildings, where in Vermont we really have sort of 9-lot subdivisions and then 50-unit apartment buildings, and not really a lot in between. And that's what we kind of refer to as missing middle in planning. It is possible, but with a lot of other factors, that by, and I apologize, I'm not quite sure what's going on with the phone. Wants me to go to bed, I guess. But
It's been dark for 3 hours.
yeah, that's right. I guess that has been a need that we've heard from a lot of communities of, the mid-sized and buildings, and don't see a lot of in Vermont, in part because of that 5-year rule and trigger. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
You did. I'm trying to, coming out of the world at large, or Vermont at large, to North Hyde Park Village, and looking at the infrastructure there, would there be many developments that would trigger Act 250 anyway? Short of just doing, the only thing that would trigger Act 2, because there's no single landowner that has more than, is going to put more than whatever the rule is, right? You have to have the same landowner over 5 years, 5-mile radius to trigger it. So a single person on a single lot could build
what you might
a
have,
small apartment without Act 250 being triggered.
I think what you might see, and I say might because it's quite speculative, is what an experience that like I saw in Westford, which was a builder who had done a lot of small-ish developments around triggered Act 250 for a duplex and event barn building in a rural parcel because of work they had done elsewhere. And I think Eric's raised a really important point about the rest of Hyde Park and the impacts of the road rule and the 5-year 5-mile that are definitely very worth the community expressing concern about. In this area, if a builder did something like that, they would not trigger Act 250. And there is an issue in Vermont of builders shying away from those kinds of developments because of triggering Act 250 for very small incremental types of projects.
So at least we'd be building over by the McMahon building.
Say that again.
For the least impact on the town, you'd be building like over towards the McMahon Chevrolet building. That area, town, or on Edgemore, so village, or town more.
Like on East Main.
Where everybody go, you know?
Like-
Yeah, that area, you know, from there over.
So Seth, what you're saying is they'd shy away from building the 2-unit duplex in North Hyde Park Village where it could use one.
Yeah.
Because they would like to save that for a larger project somewhere else.
Yes, exactly.
So
Yeah.
in my mind, Tier 1B just gives contractors a second look at North Hyde Park. Maybe we could. Right.
Yeah. And you,
It looks like Valerie's here.
yeah.
Hi, yeah, I just basically had 2 questions. I really appreciate the information about the water, additional water connections in North Hyde Park. I think that's valuable information. With that said, just thinking about North Hyde Park and the fact that there are, a handful of buildings, homes that are in disrepair, that really could use, sorry, I'm not feeling well today, some development. So my two questions are, how does that factor into all of this, the renovating of the older homes? Say wanting to do some more infill and ADUs and duplex, whatever, if the lottage allows for it. And then the other question being the capacity of our part-time zoning administrator with this, especially now with the fact that he is wearing 2 hats, assisting the village as well. So just keeping that in mind, I think, are my 2 questions, concerns.
So I think the example of the buildings that need renovation are similar to that situations that I've noted in Cambridge of people wanting to renovate, especially some of the older, larger buildings. I don't think it's the same scale at Hyde Park, so other than maybe a few examples, it does again need to go through your local bylaws. It may make a builder who would otherwise trigger the 5-year 5-mile rule more willing to do work in North Hyde Park. The water connection issue is an important one, and something that anyone connecting will still need to get the water connection approval from A&R. So it may be that ends up being a limit. It may also be that if there are upgrades to pressure or specific site needs, that the savings of the Act 250 fees make it more possible for someone to do those kinds of upgrades. That would depend on the details of the system and the details of the pressure, and that is, lots of engineering considerations that go into building. The capacity issue of your local zoning administrator, I think and this is as someone who has been a local zoning administrator, the board should always be monitoring how the permit flow is keeping up with or exceeding your local capacity. And I think that would be important, with whatever decision you make. To make sure you're adequately providing him with adequate time and resources to do the local development review.
Yeah, and I can speak on that. We agreed to help the village with zoning because our zoning administrator has plenty of bandwidth. Because we have no permits in town, because no one's building, so
And
So-
we're seeing that because revenues are down,
way down,
per
Yeah.
applications are down.
Yeah.
There has been a shift
big time.
in folks aren't building.
I think that's happening all over though. Not
Yes,
just
Oh,
here.
for sure.
oh, for sure, yeah. So he's part time because
Yeah,
we don't.
that's all it is. It's so expensive to build now that it's kind of crazy.
So. Does that mean that might change next year? It could, but
We have another,
then, you know.
we have another pandemic.
Right, exactly.
And the area that we're talking about is North Hyde Park. Because the village of Hyde Park's capacity issue is currently kind of on a temporary contractual basis with the town. If a permanent relationship or other permanent capacity for local zoning administration were to occur in the village, I think the discussion about the area Eric mentioned and the village proper, would be a really good discussion to have.
North Hyde Park.
The village of Hyde Park. So because, and I'm sorry, that was a half statement with the conclusion left unsaid, that because we're focusing on North Hyde Park because the town has a zoning administrator, so you meet the capacity standard. The village of Hyde Park, the municipal village, the South Village, does not currently have a zoning administrator or it was rolled into the village general manager, so there wasn't a dedicated staff for
Well, I
that.
think Steven's taking that.
And Stephen is taking.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that would
It's
have been,
it's interim, so
Yes.
it's not technically
if
permanent at this time.
Yeah, if that were to become non-interim, or the village were to hire someone independently, that would open the door for the village, the South Village, the village of Hyde Park, to do a tier 1B as well, if that was desired.
Right now.
That is the only limitation is that they have the zoning, they have the plan, they have both sewer and water, in at least part.
Well, what happened if, the village became part of the town?
Then the same discussion could apply.
Now, Seth, just to clarify, that needs to be an independent position.
Yes, that's an independent or a dedicated position. So, for example, if there were, a staff person who was dedicated hours for zoning administration and also did like listing or also had, other capacity that
So in Brian's situation, he could have been both,
if
he had dedicated hours.
there were
to zoning.
dedicated hours and that the community has to self-certify that it's sufficient.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which that must be the case in some of the smaller towns
I-
anyway, right? Because that used to be the case here.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's certainly easier to self-certify when it's like a position.
right.
Right.
Or-
But it's probably not a full-time position.
But it doesn't need to be a full-time position, correct? Yeah. I'm sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, but I thought it was a good point about there are two villages in this community.
You are a wealth of knowledge, I must say. I don't know how you keep all that in your brain.
Well, if you wanted to not be two separate ones, this is your best shot you're gonna have right about now. And you also need to realize that village has got all the best land in town
Mhm.
under their jurisdiction. So it's really where the stuff should be getting done. We literally started working with North Hyde Park because we couldn't work with the village of Hyde Park. Other than that, we wouldn't be having this discussion probably.
Union Bank may own the village soon enough.
We may have it in our lap anyways. Would be my guess before we're done.
It makes a lot of sense.
But just coming back to North Hyde Park Village for a second, I know there's this project about sidewalks and there's this, issue about the water and irrespective of whether you do tier 1B. Those things, is the sidewalk thing ever really gonna be real? I mean, as a planner who plans all things, is there an answer there? Cause it's terrifying to walk down there and
Let's hope so.
We have the plans in place.
Right,
The
Valerie?
scoping study is in the final hours of
Right.
being designed.
Right.
It's contingent upon funding.
fun,
Yeah.
And it's contingent upon where we direct those limited funding resources, whether that's in the village center or in North Hyde Park. That's more of a 5 or a 10-year plan. But step one is getting the scoping study done.
what do you mean village center versus, I'm talking about North Hyde Park.
Well, we're talking about sidewalks.
Yeah.
Right? So do we invest the transportation funds to fix our sidewalks in the village center, which is more populated, or do we direct it up to North Hyde Park? So there's competing projects.
But that
The
is
same funding.
Ferry Street, cause talk about scary, that is, we walked.
Ferry
out
Street
at night.
and the scoping study for North.
It
Hyde Park.
is.
You
Yeah.
need to clarify what you're when you say village center, you're still talking about North Lake Drive. I think she's thinking you're talking about like.
Let's call it Maiden Creek.
You're
In the
talking
village.
about the South Village.
Correct.
Yeah, so you're talking about,
Yeah,
The scoping study's in North Hyde Park,
yeah,
the one that's currently ongoing.
yeah,
But we also know that the sidewalks need to be done on Main Street in the village.
what's wrong with them?
oh,
They're all cracked and even.
Depends on which section you're
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
about.
that's pretty picky though, I mean. You literally go down there anytime in the summer, there's nobody ever on them. They're pretty nice sidewalks.
in the village? There's
Yeah.
people walking.
When is the last time you walked the?
Take the dog down.
Okay.
Do you? Do you go down? Are you able to walk around?
It's an ankle breaker.
I mean, compared to North Hyde Park.
Well, yes.
No, I see that.
100%.
Gotta get down Ferry Street, watch the kids.
We did-
go the road, cause there's no place. for them
Yeah.
to go. So I
We-
think Hyde Park could probably wait,
Yeah,
Hyde Park Village could wait.
yeah, those are conversations we're having,
Well, I think what
discussions we're having.
he's saying is that it's more populated down there than it is up there.
If you look at where the businesses are,
Every house.
it looks like Valerie's raising.
Yeah.
Again,
We're still.
we're still.
Hey, Valerie.
All right, no, it's a new hand. Eric, you said it. You said pretty much what I had in my head, but you said it much better in terms of the scoping study and all of that work being done. Yeah, and when myself and another committee member went door to door and talked to the neighbors, they were all very much in favor of sidewalk, at least sidewalk on one side, the west side, and for all the reasons that have been spoken about. I'm not sure how long this meeting is going to go, and I really need to hop off. But I don't know if we're doing a vote tonight, if this is an action item or not, but I just feel that with my limited knowledge, that there seems to be some pretty good checks and balances with our bylaws and DRBs and zoning administrator, and that whether we'll see anything come from this tier 1B, if it assists developers to at least look at our area, then I'm more in favor, I guess. So having said that, I'm going to take off. Thank you all.
Valerie.
So Seth, if somebody wanted to put in a 50 trailer park unit, east mill yard, that'd be exempt from Act 250.
So you would,
So why do it then, if it won't go through our zoning anyways?
Well, that is the water problem. It's a 50 unit, but if they want to put 5 in there, maybe.
I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm
Yeah.
just making
No,
a point
good
that
conversation.
the only people, if I'm not wrong, that will be able to comment will be border neighbors.
the statute for an interested party, does include people in the neighborhood, which there's lots of sort of debate if you get into an appeal process about whether what is neighborhood in a dense area. I don't know, and I'll defer to all of you, if some local DRBs ask people to demonstrate that they're interested parties, and others take comment from anyone in the public. You're not, that's a discretion of the local DRB. The appeal rights, if someone appeals a decision, go through the test of the environmental court of interested party. And that is abutters, that's people in the neighborhood. And again, in that case, there often then becomes litigation and discussion about whether a non-abutter who's very close is an interested party and in the neighborhood. And then there's a petition as well, a certain number of, or certain percentage of registered voters or landowners in the community can sign a petition and become interested parties. Though to do that, they have to have someone speak about their concerns at the local DRB process. I'm sorry, that was a complicated, but it should have,
That's very interesting.
Okay.
I think the point is well taken. It's a lot of pressure on the local DRB to do their job well, and for the select board then to support their decision if there's an appeal. Because the individual people around who may care a great deal about North Hyde Park Village and what happens to it aren't abutters or meet the definition. Won't they cannot bring any pressure to bear on it, right? I mean, a lot of people have interest in North Hyde Park Village and how it developps, right?
Even though they might not abut the land where it's being developed.
Yeah, so I mean, that is gonna be the real consequence, that Matt can really have a lot of pressure on him, the board. And, well, I'm, I was on the DRB for a while, and I wasn't very happy about a couple of field decisions that didn't get protected. And that can happen, so.
Well, yeah,
I'm not.
No, I
giving you a hard
know.
time.
No, I know.
That was
I
for- that was
understand
for dig at the
completely.
select board.
but but as you know, the DRB, there's tons and tons of rules, but every application is different.
Yeah.
And so just speaking for myself, the most important thing to me is what do the neighbors think? You know, and we've always understood that, well, there's interested parties, they have to sign in. Right, you can't not blow the meeting off and then show up at environmental court. And obviously directly abutting landowners should probably enjoy us listening to them more, but it does matter to me, and I think I can speak for the rest of the DRB members that really is kind of the most important thing, right? We do that to serve the community, and the people that would object or whatever are members of the community.
Well, you might say the zoning bylaw regulations are the most important thing, and then the abutting landowners.
Yeah.
views about them.
Well, yeah,
Because
except
if
like
we're
I
relying
said,
on what the regulations say is the sort of protection here from whatever, then it sort of matters.
yeah, it does. It's just that I've so many times people, oh, the rules. Yeah, but every application is different. And so that significantly muddies the waters, so to speak, because they don't always apply perfectly. And so then you're into a matter of opinion, but I understand.
Yeah. We
So
spent a lot of
in a
time.
nutshell, the biggest difference would be. Our zoning says you can't do 50 lots within. A certain amount of time, that's gonna have no effect. So the biggest difference is gonna be is the 10 lot and under ones, or 9 lot, however that works. With the Act 250 took away, you'll just have neighbors commenting on what's going on. Right? And with Act 250 in place, someone that maybe lived in an area that's gonna get increased traffic could say something about it. Is that in a nutshell the difference? or-
Yeah.
I mean, you look at that like no big deal, but ask Mark or Ryan, how long it takes Lawnmower Hill to turn from graded to complete potholes. About a day.
I take that back
That's-
all the time when I go eat.
That's good, yeah.
My way.
And that's the way most people in North Side
And there's a lot
Park
of traffic on
is
this.
they cut right through and avoid roundabouts, you
Yeah.
know, so. It's there's been a huge amount of traffic increase in the last few years.
Yeah.
In Centerville.
Yeah.
And they're usually doing 16,
I'm sure
you know,
down that.
Oh, it's unbelievable how fast they go by my road. Oh my
And-
gosh.
so those are things you have to think about if you develop too fast, you know. Someone's gotta pay for it. I don't see condos getting built in Northside Park.
No,
I see something on the cheap side getting built there, you know? So I think in the last year, there's been 2 house trailers put in between Dennis's and the mill.
Yeah.
And both of them are like 1968s,
Yeah, they got pulled from.
put in there nice and sideways, so you get the whole wide view. It's kind of comical, really, being on the zoning board trying to improve Northside Park, but whatever, there's people living in them, and I'm not
Yeah.
putting those people down either. I'm just saying, I don't think you're gonna get development that is gonna get enough tax revenue to pay for their municipal needs.
Are there views
So
on
it's
that?
other guys that have that larger houses will be paying it, so, cause someone's got to, so. I think Morrisville's looking at what? Another 12% increase possibly this year.
Yeah, and Morrisville has a challenge that they, for a variety of reasons, delayed some of their repaving for quite a long time.
Oh, that was in the paper.
He's catching up. Yeah,
that's a statewide issue.
that is.
We were just discussing paving.
So I think in regardless of what you do with the tier 1B, the capital planning for your roads, the capital planning for things like sidewalks in the villages, remains really important. And just a similar last night, I met with Morristown about, 1B in Morristown, thinking about, and this is not required by statute, but it's something you could do, those savings on permit fees, for example, you could structure ordinances to direct some of those savings to municipal infrastructure upgrades like the water system or like building a mesh kitty for sidewalks. Those would all be things worth considering if you go down this direction.
One last tier 1B question.
Yes.
You wanted, I think you said last week, you wanted to have a decision because when you go to wherever it is you're going, you could say it at that same meeting and then arrange a site visit because this board needs to do site visits even of tier 1Bs. Is that right?
Yeah, so the process is the tier 1B requests go to the state land use review board at the same time as the regional plan. There is a preliminary review that LCPC will be submitting in January. That can include a May, so it does not need to have a decision by then. We will be doing the final submittal in May, so the community's decision for now would need to be made by May.
Oh, we were under the impression it was January, weren't we?
Yes,
That's the
Locked in.
into the
Yeah.
county application.
the county, yeah, so
And the county application includes the draft. The draft is including the 1B.
is included
That
in
was,
one.
you added
Yeah.
like a month ago, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
that range.
Which
So we do have to decide.
Which is the best way to get it reviewed with all of the other applications and streamlined.
Yes,
The drop dead date is May.
And that's when we can wrap up the areas with.
right.
So we don't have to necessarily decide on specific areas.
But we do have to make a decision whether
If we wanna join in.
Or you do. We don't.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, if you want to be in, right, like if you want to be in like the May or this is the time to do it. If you want more time to kind of discuss the specific boundary you would have between now and May, to do that. Does that distinction make sense? If you could decide not to do it now and to choose to opt in at a later date, that would mean that it would be, instead of reviewed at the same time as the regional plan, an amendment that would put all the focus on Hyde Park and all of the kind of onus on Hyde Park. And not saying you can't do it, you could, but it would be streamlined to do that with the regional plan and the other communities.
And does the site visit that they do, they will do a site
They
visit?
do.
And they could reject our application because they could say, we don't like there's too much wetland or is it, I mean, what's the point of the site visit if it doesn't have any?
What we've seen in other regions is that the site visit has more to do with the boundary than that is any area eligible. So,
Boundary of what?
so we go back to the map.
There.
Yeah, the map.
Say that, those parts of this are no good and we restrict. Based on their site visit.
Well, they are saying parts of this is no good, right? And some of this is wetlands, right? Some of this hot pink is wetlands, right?
Yeah, that is exclusive.
That would fall to the state permit.
That would still follow the state wetlands permit. Yeah. Yeah, the state wetlands permit does not go away because of 1B. So they still have to comply with the wetlands permit.
So we basically just have to give our opinion on this matter, is what the select board are looking for.
Yes, that's the thing that the select board's looking for, an advisory opinion from the planning commission.
Well, I think I'm probably with Valerie, how about everybody else? You're select board. You don't get to get that opinion. You're just sitting here. You're just sitting there. What do you think, Brian?
Well, initially, when I read this, I thought it was gonna take away our density that we have in our zoning, but knowing that it's not, I guess it doesn't really affect the whole law.
I'm okay with it also. I don't see a huge demand for large developments up there. And we have the other safeguards with the permitting for different aspects of it between the town and the state.
Yeah, I also feel the same way. I feel like there's plenty of oversight and not a lot of real opportunity up there anyways.
I want to say thank you though, because I understand it way better than I did the
Yeah, I
other
think
day.
it's a
So
great
I
idea.
did not get that at all.
Yeah.
This makes a lot more sense. What do you think?
I don't think it's, but. That's fine.
That's your opinion.
Absolutely.
It's fine.
And I don't know how my whole work feels. I might agree.
I'm pretty sure one of them really wanted to be here.
I know, and
I don't get that. It's the one that was so adamant, talking about.
I'm getting us together, which I think it was a great idea.
Yeah.
Probably should pay more off.
I think we should too. I don't think it's a bad thing,
Even
even
if
if
it's once every couple months.
I agree, that's a great idea.
yes. I'm not sure what happened to it being a, so. So,
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Steph.
thank you.
Very much.
Yeah.
thank you, Seth, you
Appreciate it.
overwhelmed me. You overwhelmed my brain.
So, when you go to a meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, would you like a nomination to adjourn the meeting?
Okay, I think I can.
Second.
Give you the night off.
Justin has talked about a recommendation, but you're okay with no recommendation, right? Change the things.
I don't, I think we're good. There's 3 board members here that heard the opinion, but. I think everyone's a lot of, yeah, I think, and you explained it that's really well. So.
Okay.
I'll let you know for sure, but I don't think it needs to. Be 30th.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, take the night off.
I've seen it like 3 times.
For real this time.
For real this time, okay.
Yeah.
They already did. There. You did it. Okay, so, yes.
Just take it.
Yeah.